If it means saving Peter Parker from the sins of Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin, heroes will become villains and villains will become heroes. What'll happen next? Well, let's hop into the pages of Amazing Spider-Man issue number 35 and find out together, shall we? So then, picking up from where the last issue had left off, Norman Osborn had saved Kraven from a shallow grave and had reclaimed his magical spear. Though it's pretty clear magic alone isn't going to get them out of this situation, so Norman is sure to go out of his way to upgrade the spear using technology, though he fully admits being so close to something that once held his old sins is a truly terrifying concept, and working on the spear he almost feels like he can hear the Goblin's laughter, but more on that in a minute. Now back over with a Peter who is only sinking deeper and deeper into Goblinized corruption. He's managed to corner Mary Jane and Paul in the Holland Tunnel, only to be cut off at the pass by the returning Queen Goblin, who it seems has completely changed her motivation in the span of just one issue. Before it seemed like she wanted to kill Peter, feeling as though it would be the only way to finally rid herself of her own goblin corruption, but now apparently she wants to actually help Peter and save him from the sins, because she knows full well how horrible it is to lose yourself to someone else's external corruption. Again, this doesn't really make a ton of sense right now, but maybe we'll circle back to this because I do have a rather interesting theory. Spider-Man manages to make short work of Queen Goblin in a fight scene that is so jarringly off-model it's actually kind of painful to look at. No, seriously, I looked at this page for like 5 minutes trying to pick out everything that's wrong with it. The anatomy is all wrong, that's obvious. The actual posing is pretty damn awkward, but for some reason it seems that Queen Goblin, a really over-designed character, lost like 90% of her accessories in between shots. But of course, none of this has to actually do with Queen Goblin. With her out of the way, evil Spider-Man is now finally free to launch into a full-on angry incel rant that's been bubbling inside him since forever. Now, you, Paul, you're the one who stole Mary Jane from me. I hate you more than I've hated anyone, and the hate feels good. I'm gonna drop you off this tall building like the Green Goblin did to Gwen. It's then Mary Jane steps on in with her brand new jackpot powers, and again, it doesn't matter how many times I say that statement just feels so wrong on the tongue, but hey, here we are. To Mary Jane's credit, her clapback is actually pretty good. She basically says, hey, Peter, I know you're under control of evil goblin sins right now, but let's not forget that I am a full-grown adult woman with my own agency, so please, if you're gonna direct any anger, can you direct it at me? I mean, it won't feel good or be any less weird, but it's at least something, and hey, the Spider-Man who gobs is happy to oblige. Okay, I'm mad at you, Mary Jane. You ruined my life. It's here at the 11th hour that Kraven makes his reappearance armed with Norman's new science spear because, hey, Mary Jane might be a fully realized, independent superwoman capable of fighting her own battles, but for the purposes of this story, she's not going to. Why? Because we still have a lot of old business from Kraven's last hunt that we're going to need to relitigate once again. Evil Spider-Man says that he easily beat Kraven once before, so what makes him think that this battle is going to be any different? And indeed, the Spider-Man who gobs beats the ever-loving crap out of Kraven, who just kind of smiles the whole way through. Why? Because he says that Spider-Man actually did give him everything he wanted. After all, Kraven wanted to prove that he was better or equal to his father, and Spider-Man gave him the opportunity to prove just that. He buried him and left him for dead with his father's gun. But even when this Kraven was at his absolute lowest, he did not succumb to the same madness that took his father and grandmother. This Kraven shows life, and in his eyes, it proved that he's the best Kraven there is. Also, this Kraven was only stalling for time so Norman could sneak up on Spider-Man and stab him with the spear. And I mean, I guess the whole thing working this time, but not the other time they tried, does make a weird sort of sense when you stop and consider that Norman lost his sins originally due to Sin Eater's magic shotgun, and the sins only got put into Kafka due to evil super science from beyond. So maybe the answer was always to fuse science and technology. Also, even though Kafka is still stuck in her Queen Goblin form, she smiles, implying that the sins really are gone this time, and maybe that's the whole reason she actually did try and help Spider-Man in this situation instead of killing him, because the old Kafka is coming back? Or something, who the hell knows? With the fight over, Peter and MJ actually get a brief minute just to themselves, wherein Peter apologizes for any of the crazy stuff he might have said while under Goblin influence, and Mary Mary Jane accepts the apology, saying that she knows that Peter wasn't in his right mind and he couldn't possibly really think any of those things. You know, those things that real fans have been yelling in my comment section for months now. If nothing else, they seem to be on better terms right now, and don't worry about Peter's reputation. As Norman says, all the evil stuff he did while under the influence of Goblin corruption will just be blamed on Eddie Brock because people still assume that he's the one rocking the black costume. Peter admits that this whole situation has given him a lot to think on. They may have been Norman's sins, but they were still able to bring out something immature, petty, and ugly inside him, and perhaps the only way he'll deal with these problems is by jumping back into the field and doing some good work as Spider-Man. But hey, what about the spear with the sins? Are we gonna have to worry about that again? Kraven says he's going to bind it and bury it somewhere deep, so they shouldn't be a problem. Only here's the thing, as Norman explains, the spear was actually a dud, and the only way he managed to get the Green Goblin's sins out of Spider-Man is by offering them an old familiar home inside of him. Uh-oh. As the comic comes to a close, Norman stifles a very familiar sounding manic laugh. And so that was Amazing Spider-Man issue number 35, everyone, and overall it was alright, I guess, maybe. I think my biggest problem with this story is that despite having a bunch of manic fun along the way, this story ended in probably the safest, most predictable fashion. Norman took the sins back, and now we're probably gonna have several arcs in a row wherein he tries to fight against the return of the Green Goblin, because no matter how good a redemption arc is, even if that redemption arc is arguably the only thing holding up modern Amazing Spider-Man right now, the status quo is always returned to. Once again, too, it feels like the villains and supporting characters actually ended up getting more growth, both direct and subtle, than Peter did. I was certainly not expecting Kraven to have such a journey of self-discovery here. I dare say it ends on a feel-good note for him. Likewise for Kafka, I hope another writer actually picks up with her. I could actually imagine a scenario wherein maybe now she can actually change back and forth between human Kafka and Queen Goblin, and there's some fun storytelling potential there. Then, of course, there's everything with Peter, which I know had a lot of people's dander up because, again, he was basically just yelling and shouting everything that fans in comment sections and forums have been yelling and shouting, which means a lot of people are probably going to end up feeling called out by this. Personally, for what it's worth, I never got angry about any of this. A bad story is just a bad story. It doesn't affect me deeply. Though, to throw Wells a bone and agree with him, yeah, I also find it very uncomfortable when a lot of male comic fans get all sort of up in arms about what a woman, even a fictional woman in this situation, chooses to do or not do with her romantic life. I will, however, say it's super annoying that they seem to be setting up this big confrontation between MJ and Peter only for them to not really have it. Likewise, Paul probably didn't even need to be here at all. Because, and I cannot reiterate this enough, Paul is not actually a character. He is an empty vessel for fans to pour their anger into, and every time you do that, you're doing the company's job for them. Overall, I would give this one a 5.5 out of 10. Again, and not the worst this book has been. Lord knows it can be much worse. I just wish if they were going to go through all the trouble of making Peter into an evil goblin-like character, they would have had a little bit more fun with the idea, or at the very least taken some more unexpected chances, like, hey, maybe actually give him that goblin spider suit from the cover. I can't believe that didn't actually appear in the book. What a ripoff. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.